Tempo FM.
Good afternoon now. You are still here with Rebecca, doing something a little bit different here at Tempo FM. That's www.tempofm.co.uk, 107.4 FM on your dial, and coming from the heart of Wetherby. So I'm on for another hour. I've just been on for an hour, and we are talking about National Sicky Day 2020, where it's a statistic. Get the words out, please. Statistically, it is the most likely day for people to pull a sickie. Now, of course, not everyone pulling a sickie is genuinely sick, but sometimes they actually are sick. And you might just be off for a day or two. You might have a severe cold. You might have migraines, or you might just be seeing as we're now in February and Valentine's Day is coming up. You might be getting a little bit sick of the thought of all the love songs that are going to come on. Oh, here's Nayo was so sick. That was Nayo was so sick. I like to think you guys won't turn off the radio because you're enjoying the show. I mean, that's why we're here. That's why we have our live presenters. We could just leave the system running, but that wouldn't be quite so nice, would it? So, excuses for why people have taken a sick day off work. Now, a really big one is a relative has died. Sometimes a distant relative, sometimes someone a little bit closer. But often this ends up being, often in terms of people who have been lying about it, of course, this often turns out to be a lie, and the relative turns out to be very, very much alive, or even non-existent. I suppose if you go in and if you say, oh, my uncle died for the third or fourth time, I think people are going to start to get suspicious. Not saying people don't have 3 or 4 uncles. My mum has has lots of brothers. So I do in fact have lots of uncles. But if you start to say it's the same name each time, that's when it starts to get suspicious. So if you're going to formulate a lie to tell at work, maybe make it a medical one. If you can make it embarrassing, it's more convincing. But yeah, so grief is often a reason why people will have a day off at work, and you can in fact get grief leave for pets, especially if they're very old family pets that have been in the family for years and years. You can have time off work to grieve for them. For example, if you had an animal who lived for 15, 16, 17 years, you can have the time off work to grieve and spend, especially if it was your pet and you were the sole carer, because that is obviously quite a big shock to the system. So I mean, there are lots of different kinds of grief. Sometimes grief is sad and unexpected, but sometimes it's good grief. That will help with healing, and maybe the animal or the person was suffering, and it's much better that they have passed, for example, and you're happy that they are now not in pain, but obviously you're grieving because they have now gone. So here's Bastille with Good Grief. Bastille there with Good Grief. Another excuse as to why you may have pulled a sickie at work today, to not go in, to have the day off, to chill in bed, stay in bed all day, or just to get some odd bits and bobs done around home. Or, I mean, I think what I would probably do if I pulled a sickie, I mean, I couldn't pull a sickie, but if I worked a 9-to-5 job and I pulled a sickie one day, I would probably spend the day in bed with my feet up, or on the sofa with my feet up, and probably watching some box sets or lots of films, or just stuff that I've been meaning to watch for a while. That would probably be my day, and it would be a day wasted, but it would not be wasted because I would definitely feel so much better. Now, sometimes you might be off ill because you might have to pull a sickie because you're in pain. Sometimes you may have hurt yourself. You may have broken a limb. You may have fractured something. Obviously, these are far more convincing if you do turn up in a pot or a cast of some kind. But let's face it, you're not going to deliberately hurt yourself just to get some time off work. Well, I certainly hope you wouldn't. And this is the sort of thing that you would definitely need a doctor's note for. So if something hurts, of course it could be an internal injury. You might not have broken anything at all. It might be something going wrong inside. But of course, if there is something that you're feeling very unwell about, you should, in the very least, call, get a doctor's appointment, or call the NHS 111 service. Find out what you should do. Or if it's really severe, of course, we have our wonderful NHS ambulance service that you can call on 999. In fact, you can even call the ambulance service on 911 now. That number also works because of people getting it mixed up with the American number, which of course is call 911 for police, ambulance and so on. So it's now a number that works over here in the UK as well. Right, back to some music. Let's play Emily Sandé with Hurts.
Tempo FM weather.
Yes, let's have another look, see if there's any update. Well, it's not. There are no updates regarding the weather. It's a dry but windy start with blustery showers later, which could be turn wintry on higher ground. The showers are coming in from the west. It was a lovely sunrise this morning, apparently, with a mixture of bright or sunny spells elsewhere. Possible gales in exposed areas at times. Maximum temperature 7 degrees C. Of course, with these high winds, it is going to be a bit chilly. So hat, scarf and gloves, I think. Always a nice idea. Tonight, blustery showers will continue into the evening and overnight in the west, staying mostly dry but windy away from the Pennines with some clear spells at times. It will feel cold with a minimum temperature of 0 degrees Celsius, so not quite cold enough for ice, but still quite chilly. Tomorrow is a wet and windy start for many, although we will get some rain and more wind.
Good times, great songs. This is Tempo FM.
And you are listening to Rebecca doing something a little bit different. It is 21 minutes past 12 o'clock, and we've been talking about a National Sicky Day, where most people today will be pulling a sickie. Apparently, one of the big reasons for it being today is because people will have had their first paycheck since Christmas in the last week or so, and they might have gone out and celebrated over the weekend and decided, I can't be bothered on Monday, or they might just be a bit hungover. Obviously very, very silly reasons to be off work. For example, I got stuck in the bathroom, or my hamster's poorly, or my trousers split on the way into work, so I couldn't come in. Another good one is I swallowed a hot sausage last night and it burnt my throat so badly I can't breathe today. Obviously, that's a little bit silly, because if you were having respiratory issues, you would ideally go to the doctors and get a doctor's note. That's a big reason lots of people are genuinely off ill, is of course they are actually ill. They might have or they could have all sorts of issues, but you should always go to a doctor for a note, maybe even a Dr. Jones. Although I think this doctor is based on the Indiana Jones, who was an archaeologist, not a doctor. Aqua with Dr. Jones, and I think, as I said before, I think that particular Dr. Jones is based on Indiana Jones, Dr. Indiana Jones from the films. So if you are going to get a doctor's note, make sure it is from an actual doctor. Apparently online, during my research for this, I found websites where you could download and print genuine doctor's notes to pull a sickie from work. I just think that's awful. Why would you do that? Just be honest, or just have the one day, or just never do it. Of course, sometimes we do need a day off work because we are, it's quite stressful. It can be mentally exhausting. An issue that they probably don't have in Finland and Canada, where they are tied for the shortest work day worldwide, where they will work. Obviously, our work days are about 8 hours. Where their work days are just 6 hours and 45 minutes long, which is just brilliant. And Finland, however, has 3 different breaks allotted in an average workday schedule, while Canada only has 1. So Finland, you get more breaks, but it is still a short day. In Canada, it's a short day, but you only get 1 break. So, I mean, that's nuts. And in comparison to that, I mean, that's 6 hours, 45 minutes, almost twice as long, half as long as the employees in Nigeria, Cameroon and South Korea, who have to endure up to 12-hour shifts, which are the longest of many of the countries in almost all of the countries in the world. And the lengths of these days is often compounded by cultural factors, such as after-work drinks and dinners that employees would be looked down upon should they not attend. And they're very proud over there, whereas over here we'd probably say, "No, I don't want drinks with the guys from work. I've had to put up with them all day. I don't want to continue." No, they almost have to attend. And I imagine in situations like that, they might start to feel a little bit in over their head. So that's the next song I'm going to play for you. I'm going to play Over My Head, bracket cable car, close bracket, by The Fray. Because sometimes work is just too much.
What's on, where to go and what to do. The Tempo FM What's On Guide.
Yes, let's have a quick look-see at what's happening in and around Wetherby in the next few weeks. Well, tonight at the Spotted Ox, it's quiz night, which happens every first Monday of the month, and tonight it is starting at 8:30pm. There are cash prizes and everyone is welcome. This Wednesday, the 5th of February, at the Spotted Ox, same place, different day, open mic session at 8pm. People are invited to book in advance or turn up on the night to perform or just turn up to listen. You can contact the Spotted Ox at 01423 358 387. A week later, on Thursday the 13th of February, Askham Bryan College Gardening Club is having their meeting at 7:30. If you're a member, it's free admission. If you're a non-member, it's £5. And this week, the conversation is about spring fever, an illustrated talk given by Anne Wright. Talk about plants, combinations and tricks to keep your garden sparkling through the winter and spring seasons. And there will be unusual snowdrop varieties for sale. That's at Askham Bryan College, a week on Thursday. That's the 13th of February. Also on the 13th, tea dance at Tockwith Village Hall. £2 per person, including tea and home-baked cake during the interval. You can just come along and everyone is welcome. More details about all of these are on our website at www.tempofm.co.uk. Click on the local events tab. There's also a local news tab at the top, and you can even see our schedule of who or what is on the radio in the next coming week. I can actually tell you right now today, on Monday the 3rd of February from 3pm it's a sensational 70s show with Rob Allen. 5 till 7pm drive time with Stuart Robinson. From 7pm it's the Phoebe and Brooke show, and into the evening at 8pm till 10 it's the Monday evening show with Andy Lister. So lots of items to keep you engaged throughout the next throughout the day really.
Proudly serving Kirby Overblow,
Little Ribston,
Cattle,
Thorpe Arch,
Walshford, and the heart and soul of the Lower Wharf Valley. This is Tempo FM.
And you are here with Rebecca doing something a little bit different. It is 24 minutes to 1, which means there's just 24 minutes left for me to continue talking about National Sicky Day, which is today, the 3rd of February, the day most likely, the first Monday of February, where people are most likely to have a day off. For no reason other than they don't want to go to work. Now, sometimes the reasons are, of course, genuine. Sometimes they are completely and utterly rubbish and terrible. And, you just why? Just don't bother. But sometimes the issues you might have might be they might be real, but they might not be physically present. It might be what's going on in your mind, and sometimes we just need some time to have a bit of a mental break. Otherwise, you might end up having your 19th nervous breakdown. That's the Rolling Stones with 19th Nervous Breakdown. Yes, it's always actually a good idea to have a mental day off. I don't mean you need to have the day off and go mental. I mean for your mental well-being, for your mental health. If you feel too stressed, too overwhelmed, or you feel like you're going crazy, then sometimes you do just need to step back and just have that moment. And that is something that lots of employers are looking to encourage their employees to do, which is pretty cool.
Tempo FM Travel.
Let's get an update on what's happening out on the road. Well, it's all looking pretty good. A1M, nice and green. Roads up to Harrogate, nice and green. Roads over to York, including the A64, nice and green. Centre of Tadcaster, Boston Spa, even the centre of Wetherby, all looking excellent out there. The only thing to note is on the Wetherby Road, A58, if you're travelling from Collingham to Bardsey, East Rigton, or basically towards Leeds, or from there is heavy traffic in a construction area, and there are temporary traffic lights in operation. That is next to, I don't know the name of that little village. Either way, it's near East Keswick, just before you get to East Rigton after you leave Collingham. So yeah, all looking pretty good out there. And my show is almost over. It's 12 minutes to 1.
Making your workday go faster. This is Tempo FM.
It is indeed Tempo FM, and you have been listening to Rebecca doing something a little bit different. I haven't got much longer left, but the theme today has been National Sicky Day. Whether you didn't want to go into work just because you felt a bit like being lazy, or whether you missed the alarm, or whether you had issues with your commute in, or if you are genuinely ill or injured or unwell, then all the more, today is the day for you. Everyone's pulling sickies today. Well, not everyone, of course. I mean, last year it was 9 million people pulled sickies over the course of 2019. And I think if 9 million people had pulled a sickie on the same day, the country would have come to a complete standstill. It might as well have been a bank holiday, to be honest. Obviously, we don't go to a standstill on a bank holiday, but no one goes to work on a bank holiday, basically. Now, sometimes work might feel like you're juggling things a little bit. It might feel like you are struggling mentally, and it might be a bit of a balancing act. So I'm going to play for you now Tightrope from The Greatest Showman soundtrack. That was from The Greatest Showman film cast featuring Michelle Williams with Tightrope. Yes, sometimes life is a bit of a balancing act where you need work to get the money to do the fun things that you want to do, but then you don't have the time to do the fun things you want to do because you have the work to get the money to do the fun things you want to do. And it just gets a bit ridiculous. But don't you worry. Sometimes it is a good idea just to sit back and relax and just take the time out just to recoup yourself. I'm going to play for you now Frankie Goes to Hollywood with Relax. That's Frankie Goes to Hollywood with Relax. Maybe you're one of the estimated 350,000 absentees from work this first Monday of February. Whatever your reason, I hope you feel better. Unless, of course, you're fibbing and you're just feeling very lazy, in which case, naughty you. And now, leading us into the news, Judy London with Little White Lies. I've been Rebecca with something a little bit different here at 107.4 Tempo FM, coming from the heart of Wetherby. Thank you so much for listening to me today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've had a good time. I hope you've learnt something new. 9 million people off work last year for sickies. It's ridiculous. I can't say if that's going to happen again this year, but we're going to have to find out. It is only February after all. The 3rd of February. That's crazy. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with Judy London, and I hope that you tune in to me next week. Stay tuned, because later on from 3 p.m. it's the Sensational 70s show with Rob Allen. See you next week.